Okay, good evening, everybody. For the city of Laconia, I'd like to welcome everybody to the April meeting of the Laconia Zoning Board of Adjustments. With that being said, I'd like to say, excuse us, this is a little different than what we're used to doing, so be patient with us and we'll get through it all together. I trust and hope that everybody can hear me. And we'll go ahead and get started with the roll.
Hey, can you all hear me? Okay, roll call. Steve Bogert,
Here,
Lori Gibbs,
Here.
Roland Mayhew, and Gail Ober.
I'm here. I'm not sure Roland can hear you.
He's on.
Now he's on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Before you proceed, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of housekeeping items. Due to the COVID-19 crisis and in accordance with the Governor's News Emergency Order number 12 and Executive Order number 2020-04, this meeting is to be conducted electronically. Public has access to listen to and participate in this meeting by using the Zoom website. For more information, please call 603 or zoning@laconianh.gov. To participate in this meeting as a member of the public, you need to be on the Zoom platform. The meeting number is 912-4974-9909. Once again, 912-4974-9909. Password 941215. Repeat, 941215. Okay, go ahead.
okay. So next on the agenda is going to be the roll, acceptance of the minutes. Do we have, did everybody get a chance to review them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, is there any additions, corrections, subtractions?
Oh,
Each person's gonna have to speak.
No.
because we have to, okay,
No.
I have to play back and forth with this and doing the talking. So with that, can we have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the March zoning board of adjustment minutes as written.
second,
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
second,
Roland did the second. Okay, all those in favor of it? Gail? How
Yes.
do you vote? She said yes. Roland?
aye.
Lori?
Aye.
And Steve? Aye. So that passes 4-0. Okay, I got a bit of housekeeping before we go into the hearing the applications. We do have 4 members tonight. And with that, that brings up special voting things I want to make the applicants aware of. Okay, in order to get a passed motion, the minimum vote count would be 3-1. A 2-2 vote would indicate a negative, which would mean the applicant failed. That would be a motion to pass, it would fail. If it was a motion to reject, it would fail. So it could go either way. But, so I do offer at this moment, if the applicants would like to move to another meeting where there might be more members, please let me know at this time. And if not, then we will start and you're in for that long haul.
with my client.
Please.
Your other applicant, Mr. Schwartz, is on Zoom, and he is muted, so you'll have to unmute him to hear his response. I believe Dean has to do that.
Oh,
I don't know how to. I have
Hello, may I help you?
You're the other applicant, correct, Beth?
Whoever is talking, I can't hear them.
Eric, who's the other applicant?
Mr. Squire, lower left corner.
Hello.
Hello?
Mr. Schreier,
Yeah, this is Gabriel Schreier here.
do you want to continue this evening or wait for the next meeting?
To be honest with you, it's really hard to hear. So, if you could increase a little bit the volume, by any chance?
Not on our end. The question before you is, the four board members, do you want to continue or this evening? Or would you like to delay till the next meeting where there's a possibility of having 5 members?
It looks like you're muted.
Did we get an answer?
I don't think you can hear me.
I don't know. I don't think you can hear the question.
Will
I don't think
you
it- I
repeat the
don't-
question one more time?
The question is, we have former members, and with that in mind, the voting would have to be a 3-1 minimum vote for it to pass. And if it comes up to be a 2-2 vote, then the motion would fail. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I understand.
And I offer this at the beginning of the meeting to see if you'd like to continue with tonight's meeting, or would you like to move to the next meeting and hopes, and I use the word hopes, that we would have 5 members that night.
To be honest with you,
But
I see
once we
that.
start, and if you say yes, you cannot go backwards.
How much you went through to set up this meeting, so let's just go ahead with the meeting. I'll take
Very
any
good.
words that comes up.
Okay, let the record indicate we wanted to be heard tonight with a 4-member board, okay? Yes,
I've consulted with my client, and my client has decided that we'll wait for a 500. Thank you very much for coming out.
okay.
Okay.
Now remind you of one thing. There's no guarantee at the next meeting. There's gonna be 100. Okay. Okay, I got a request, this is to the board now. I got a request from the applicant, Mr. Nix, that we move him to the next meeting. And so is there any objections? Gail,
No,
Roland,
No,
Ori,
No,
Steve, I have no objection. So if we could go ahead and put them on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay. As we move right along, that brings us up to, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that street. Schreier. Okay, Mr. Schreier,
Yes.
you're up now, and we're gonna review your application now. Okay,
Okay.
so. All right, the next application we're gonna hear is gonna be application 2020-0005 SE with the applicant for special exception from Article 5, Section 235-26. Is this the right one? No. Never mind. Wrong one. Got the right one now. Okay, I apologize here. The next application is 2020-0016 SE, special request. The applicant requests a special exception from Article 7, Section 235-41, subsection M, to allow short-term lodging. If the applicant would like to go ahead and speak and tell us what he's looking for and how we can help him, we'd appreciate it.
So I'm looking to allow short-term rental of my property. I have been renting for quite a few years already, and I always use a renting agency. They take care of all the aspects around it, and so far I haven't heard any. So I would like to continue this.
Are you having him?
I can't hear.
Yeah, I'm having him click in and out. He phases in and out on me.
Should I repeat one more time?
Please.
Okay. So what I said is that I'm looking to. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So that I'm looking to to allow short-term rental of my property, which I have been renting out for the past couple of years. I'm using a rental agency who takes care of all the aspects around the rental, and I've been doing this for years and never had any problems around it. Could you hear me?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We're just going through the paperwork and stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see us, but we're definitely here and stuff.
Lots of paper shuffling.
Now, is this your secondary home? Do you stay there
Yeah.
at all?
Yes.
How often do you
Yes, it is.
visit?
Usually we are up every weekend during the winter time. Summertime we go more less frequently.
This
My-
is for
My daughter is on the ski team, so usually we go in the winter time. Summertime, I work more, and we take some vacation, so not every weekend we can go.
Can we ask questions?
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. Um, so I'm assuming, what I believe I heard was that you've been using the rental agency and you haven't had any complaints or issues with any of
Mhm.
the tenants that you've been renting to? Okay, that was one of the things that I wanted to determine. And I was wondering what the maximum occupancy is of your home. How many people do you allow at a time to rent?
To be honest with you, it's set up with the condominium. I don't know on top of my head right now, so I don't
I
want
know-
to say a number, but I think it's
I know the assessor's card said you had 3 bedrooms, and I was just wondering
Mhm.
how many beds in each bedroom, because I know I've done rentals in 3-bedroom homes that have actually been set up to accommodate as many as 8 to 10 people. And I was just wondering what
There is a limitation set up with our condominium.
with the condo, okay,
So
okay.
you-
So that issue would be taken care of
yeah.
then,
yes, it's limited with the condominium,
okay,
and the rental agency always gets a pre-approval from the condominium, so
Oh,
it's set up between them.
okay. That answers another question, thank you.
Actually, we pay a fee, I believe, or the rental agency pays a fee to the condominium.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I have one question if I could.
Yes, please.
Okay. Are there any restrictions on the number of visitors that you can have when your renters rent this? Is there a limit on their own visitors?
Yes, and it's included in the rental agreement. So I use a rental agreement that is set up with the rental agency, and they take care of. So they let the potential renter know what are the rules, and the condominium has a regulation how many cars can be parked and what kind of visitors they can come. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, while you're looking, as part of the short-term rental, ordinance, in addition to getting the special exception, he also has to go through the regular application process, which he has started that process, which is the reason that we're here. So he would have to comply with all of the other provisions of the short-term lodging ordinance.
I believe one of them is the parking. So I have a parking space right in front. And yeah, I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Now, how do I open this to public?
So you,
Yeah. There's a member of the public on the line that would like to speak on the cable request. Please raise your hand. There's at the bottom of the screen, an icon. Please raise your hand. We only have one other member of the public. And they don't wish to speak? Do not have their hand up. You can ask directly.
someone identified as P. Thompson, 89. Do you wish to speak?
P. Thompson, 89. Would you like to speak? If not, I'm gonna move on. Please acknowledge verbally. Okay, let the record indicate P. Thompson did not wish to speak, and we're gonna go ahead and move on. Gail, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Of the applicant, no, thank you.
Roland, do you have any questions of the applicant?
I don't have any questions. I have a comment.
Okay, just hold the comment for a minute. All right, Ori, do you have any questions of the applicant?
I have no further questions.
Okay, does the applicant have any further comments?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna close it to the public and bring it to the board for discussion. Gail, you indicated you had some discussion.
I only have one question. This is in the, is either Southdown or Long Bay Shores?
Southdown.
Southdown, okay. I have a question for the planner,
Go ahead.
Dean. Dean, have you had any communication at all with Southdown in general as to their sentiments regarding short-term rentals within their properties?
Not recently. We have had discussions with various members of the board over the past year when we were going through the process of enacting the short-term lodging ordinance, and then secondarily when we passed the part for the special exception. I know that in general the board is not in favor of short-term rentals, but it really is up to the individual villages to define that one way or the other. Some villages have very strict rules concerning short-term lodging and others do not. Others have none at all. And with the ones that have none at all, then it would be the city's default ordinance. The ordinance is always in effect, but we would be the controlling factor then. I will note that the village, in this case, the Gables Village, and also the Southdown Recreational Advisory Board have all been publicly notified, as we do with all abutters, concerning this application. We have not received, to my knowledge, any direct from either association on this application.
Have
Any
you?
follow-up question, Gail?
Yeah. As to Southdown, now that you said their general sentiment about how they feel about short-term rentals, okay? Have you had any communications with any of the villages regarding other applications or during the planning process when the planning board and the city council came up with this ordinance? And
We
the
did.
special exception?
Over the past year or so, we did have several conversations with different villages and also different owners within a village. Some were in favor, some were against, some were neutral. I did hear from some villages that said they were going to attempt to change their bylaws to beef up their own individual regulation on short-term lodging, to either prohibit it or to make it like a longer term, so you kind of eliminate the weekend type thing or the 1 week thing. But whether that's occurred or not, I'm not sure. Most of those conversations occurred in the 4 month to 12 month ago period. I don't remember any recently, except for For short-term rentals, I don't remember any recently. We did have a case at the planning board this month that we had some comment from South Down and the immediate village, but that was on an entirely different type of matter that was not concerning short-term lodging.
Okay.
If I may
Roland,
say,
do you have some comments?
I think it was last month that we approved the short term for that very same area, wasn't it? 68,
68 Gables Drive.
yes, last month. The difference between that application and this application, as I remember, was that application was very, very well thought out, very well presented. The people had been renting to the same type of people, motorcyclists and people like that, for the past 12 or 13 years, and never had a problem. The problem I find with this application is that I'm having difficulty interpreting the answers to the questions that are asked specifically about special exceptions. I don't think there's enough information on this application to help me to make a qualified decision. And I just think that we need more information than what's provided here.
No, I feel it, so I do understand what Roland is saying, because when I initially looked at this, I felt the same way. That the answers really didn't fulfill the obligations of going into the details of exactly why provisions are satisfied, why it won't create hazards. I mean, the answers seemed perfunctory. I did get answers to some of the questions that I had when I read through this. The applicant has given me some of the answers. But I did feel that the overall presentation of the application was somewhat lacking. The only really, the only documentation he's really provided are the rental agreements. So we know that he's been renting it for at least, well, we go back to 2014, I guess is the first one we have. So we know they're doing that. We know that the condo association is being notified and giving its approval, I guess, apparently to the rental agreements. I did have the question about what the occupancy was, but if the condominium itself, within the bylaws and the declaration, is limiting, particularly within the bylaws, and it would be residency regs and use, if they are limiting the number of people who can occupy a home and the number of vehicles and the parking situation, the health, safety, and general welfare of the public is taken care of. But it would have been nice to see that actually in the application. I think is that what you were trying to get at, Roland, was that it just didn't provide the app. We had to go digging for the information.
Yes.
And as I said, a lot of what this application, the questions that have been raised for me, have been answered. And a lot of that, I comforted by the fact that the association is involved in approving the rentals and notice to the rentals, and that there isn't an agency that's used, because generally if you have an agency to fall back on, any issues are going to be resolved immediately, rather than have just an out-of-town or an out-of-state owner renting. But I do have to agree with Roland that I thought it was not very well prepared.
If I can just inject just a piece
Sure.
of information, some of the concerns, and I believe Dean had kind of expanded on it a little bit, but the application itself for short-term lodging has a specific formula for the number of people per square feet. There's a parking regulation. So a lot of
So a lot of what we would be concerned about is going to be taken care of in the application process, it's the permit process.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I'm especially concerned because apparently last month, one of the decisions that we made was not accepted by the city council. And what I'd really like to know what the city council wishes are. I feel we're at a disadvantage deciding whether a person needs a rental or not, based on the information that we have right now. The new ordinance that's coming into effect. But I'd still think that we should be sitting down, talking over what the council is looking for specifically in this ordinance.
Roland, I do believe that the applicant that the city is discussing has a different portion of the ordinance. And as we did approve two different ones at the last meeting, one was approved that it had 5 years consecutive of renting it out as a short-term rental versus the second one did not. Okay, so I think the question that we're going to be educated to would be the other section that didn't approve it had 5 years of consistent short-term rental. Does that make sense?
I had a hard time hearing what you said.
Okay, what I said was there's 2 parts to the short-term rental. Okay, one was, can you hear me now, Roland? Roland?
Mr. Mayhew, can you hear me when I'm speaking?
Say it again.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayhew?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Trouble with Steve. I can't do what he's saying.
All right, can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Yes, a little bit better.
Okay. What the difference is there's 2 parts to the short-term rental. One is being able to prove they have 5 years of renting for the short-term rental, and or the second part was that it can also produce the evidence that granting the special exception for this property includes general community benefits and stuff. So, and I think what fell in question was the second part and how it's being interpreted. Okay, where this application is using the first part, which shows that it has 5 years of consistent short-term rental by using a firm and using the different rental agreements over the last 5-6 years. So this application is exhibiting that of section 1 and not of section 2. Does that make sense?
This is Pete Thompson. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the treasurer for the Gables Condo Association. I apologize when you asked earlier, I couldn't get the linkage to work.
Okay.
Flyers have been renting for quite some time. I've been on the board of directors since 2013, excuse me, 2015. They've been renting the whole time we've been here. I've had no issues whatsoever with them. We do have a minimum 1-week rental in the condo documents. We have a limited parking. Each unit is assigned parking. But to your question about specifying number of renters, each unit is uniquely different. They're not all the same. So we don't specify those numbers. It's based on the individual unit.
Okay. Thank you for that input.
My question specifically was to the answers to the questions that are specifically asked on the application for a special exception. And there are 6 questions on page 2, if you take a look at it. And I'm at a loss to be able to understand the answers to the questions. They're not legible. That's my problem.
I don't know.
Anybody want to react?
Well, I can,
I was thinking there, you can barely hear me, right, Roland? I can tell if he hears me.
I think that, as I said before, I had somewhat the same response, but during the course of the application, I think enough information has been filled in. And especially knowing that, well, for example, that it's specifically authorized. Well, clearly it is. It's authorized in the chapter with a special exception. And that's been quoted. That's been cited. Will not increase demand for municipal services. Is renting the equivalent number of people. To me, that means that it's the equivalent, the same number of people as if he were renting it long-term and you had a family, say 6, living in a 3-bedroom home. So now instead of long-term family of 6, you have a week-long family of 6. So that's how I interpreted the equivalent number of people. And that special provision for the uses set forth in this chapter being fulfilled, the main one, it seems to me, would be that you must also follow the city's permit application process for approval for short-term rental. And he's already begun that. The use will not create hazards to health, safety, and general welfare. We have confirmation from the association that they're involved. Also confirmation from the association that there have been no issues that have occurred over the many years that this applicant has been renting. So that question has been answered. And for E, to meet one of the following 2 criteria, clearly he has met the minimum of 5 years rental criteria. So while the initial application was not filled out to the detail that we see in some, we have been able to ascertain answers for that. Yes, in the future, I would love to see a more fleshed out application from them, but if we can ascertain the answers to the questions in the course of the application process, hearing the application, at least for me, that satisfies the questions that I have.
And that would be the whole point of having
The
the
hearing.
applicant here and the hearing here so that we could quantify each of the questions and make sure that the answers are correct and that we feel they are. And that confirmation from the village was through the verbal confirmation from a P. Thompson, who indicated they were the treasurer. Did you hear all that, Roland?
I'm not sure he did. I think he's having a hard time getting the contact. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I don't think he heard any of that.
Roland, did you happen to hear anything Ori said? Your mic is muted.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Now, yeah,
Did you hear what Ori had said?
No.
do you want me to repeat? I mean, I could do it in a nutshell. I can just basically say that I'd initially agreed with you, Roland, that I felt that the application was not exactly filled out to the detail that I would like to see. But in the course of the presentation of the application tonight, And with the confirmation of the treasurer of the association, the questions that I had have been answered, and I feel that all of the criteria for the application have been met through the process of presenting the application, questioning the applicant, and having input from the condominium association.
Did you get that?
Yes, I did. I heard it.
Okay, so basically she was making a motion.
Essentially, I was making a motion to approve the application for special exception Z02020-0016 for short-term rentals at 58 Gables Drive. The use is specifically authorized under this chapter. The request will not create any additional demand for municipal services, and then essentially the same number of people will be renting short-term as would be renting long-term. The special provisions for use as set forth in this chapter will be fulfilled, as the applicant has already begun the application process with the city for the permit for short-term rentals. And he has worked through with the condominium association, which, while it isn't part of the chapter, is a secondary affirmation that he is fulfilling any provisions. The requested use will not create hazards to the health, safety, or general welfare of the public, in that the condominium and its bylaws itself have restrictions on parking and activities, and the condominium is involved in the rental process. And the requested use will meets number one of the criteria, in that they have been renting short-term for a minimum of 5 years prior to the enactment of the short-term lodging ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second from Gail. Any discussion of the motion?
I have another question for Dean, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Dean, during the course of your participation, et cetera, with the city council in formatting this particular special exception, can you explain to us the reason the city council included this 5-year look-back procedure?
Yes, one of the issues that the city council was concerned about was people coming into the city and buying residences strictly for the purpose of doing short-term rental, and thereby taking units of housing off of the general market and not available for local residents potentially to rent or to use or to buy. So the idea was they did not want to reward someone who bought last year, let's say, with the sole intent of occasionally we'd use it, but mostly we want to rent it out to short-term rental and make some money. That's what they were trying to prevent. And so the 5-year provision was an attempt to have it apply only to people who have been doing it for a while and in effect have been doing it, say, before the short-term lodging craze really took off in terms of Airbnb and all the other platforms. That before this was an investment opportunity, people who owned before then and had already been renting before then could continue to do so if there wasn't a problem. That was the idea behind it. Does that make sense?
It does. I have another question. So basically, what I'm understanding is that in purely residential zones, the overall intent of this ordinance was to prohibit residential zones from being used as short-term rentals or any other hotel, motel kind of use. Is that correct?
In general, yes. I mean, there were some specific provisions carved out, but in general, yes.
Okay. Was there any discussion as to whether Southdown or any of its villages would be included in this zoning ordinance?
There was some discussion while this process was going on to change the zoning in Southdown to like CR so that you could do the short-term rentals. And there was many people from Southdown and Long Bay that called my office and also called various members of the city council to express that in general, they did not want that kind of activity to be occurring. However, as I said earlier, there is a recognition that that's really controlled by the individual villages. And in this case, this village does allow it as long as it's 7 days or more. So the special exception process that was later enacted would kind of cover the Southdown Long Bay area from the standpoint of if you've been there for a while and you've been doing this for 5 years or more, then, you know, by gaining a special exception that you could continue to do it. So the council was kind of trying to draw a compromise there, if you will.
And if I would point out that a number of the, as a matter of fact, a great many of the villages in Southdown and some of them in Long Bay as well were specifically set up in the 80s and early 90s to permit this exact activity, which is why it's in their declaration, bylaws, and residency use regulations. So it would be difficult. The only way a condominium is going to be able to prohibit that activity would be then to amend the declaration to do so. And then I would say if a short-term renter applicant now has a condominium that doesn't permit it, he's going to be stopped anyway. The condominium associations that are opposing it, we've had, I'm thinking if their declaration specifically permits it, they can say they don't want it, but they need to act on that to enforce it. And
if I may add to that, is the fact that whether Long Bay or Southdown agree or disagree, that is a civil matter with the residents and not a town matter. Okay, even though we do take input from it as the public, it has no bearing on the fact that we say yes or no to the agreement. Okay, and that would follow not only with the short term, but it would also follow with the any other variance or special exception that any applicant that happens to reside there. We can control what Southdown or Long Bay does or doesn't agree with. Okay, that's why it's left as a civil matter. So, this one.
So, Mr. Chair, what I'm understanding you to say is that despite the fact that the city of Laconia passed the zoning ordinance, it doesn't apply completely to Southdown or to its individual, or Long Bay or its individual association.
No.
Okay.
What I said was the ordinance here is when an applicant applies for in this case, the special exception, he's doing it under the zoning code, okay, which was passed by the town council, okay, the city council. Now, if that doesn't give the applicant sole rights, because they still have to go get their own agreement through their own homeowners association. And if he's Southdown, Long Bay, their village or whatever, they still have to get their agreement. Okay, so if he gets accepted at the city level, and then his condominium association says no, that's a civil matter that has nothing to do with us, is all I'm saying. The code is not set up for specifically saying Southdown can or can't do anything. And that's the best of my knowledge. Dean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but they're two separate entities.
Correct.
Oh, okay. And I have one other question, Mr. Chair, but it's more for Dean.
Okay,
And correct me if I'm wrong. So if we were to vote and approve this special exception, this only allows the applicant to go forward to the planning department and complete the application process with you.
Sort of a yes. If they don't get the special exception, then we're not going to complete the application process.
Correct, correct.
As I said before, they made application for the short-term lodging permit, and as we're going through the qualifications and the process of approving the application, we realized, okay, they're in the RS zone, so therefore they need a special exception unless they meet one of the other criteria, and which the only other criteria that this particular property would adhere to would be seasonal, and they don't qualify under the seasonal provision. So therefore, the only way that they could do short-term lodging would be with a special exception, either the number 1 or number 2 provision. In this case, they're applying under the number 1 provision, and they have shown documentation that they've been doing it for more than 5 years. So yes, if you grant the special exception, then we will proceed with the application and finish the application process and notify abutters and et cetera.
Okay. And, well, I had another question and it slipped in my mind. A little bit of old age going on here, sorry. Oh, can we condition this to the applicant only?
The ordinance does that already.
Okay.
so.
Doesn't he have to
just
keep reapplying?
verify, if the current applicant sells the property, are the name changes on the property, then the short-term rental agreement is null and void.
Correct.
Okay.
And the permit is good for 2 years.
It's 2 years. It's a 2-year permit, yeah.
A 2-year permit.
So he has to come back.
Does not have to come back to the zoning board. If
No, but
the same gentleman
city.
2 years from now wants to continue, he would reapply.
But he
for a
would come
permit.
back for a permit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But if he sells the property, the next owner would not have a special exception.
Okay.
Or what if they transfer the property? The
Uh,
dollar deal.
What do you mean, like into a trust or something like that?
Yes, yes.
Well, it's essentially, well,
If
I
it's
would assume they'd want-
if it's essentially the same
essentially the
owner,
same person. If the beneficiary of the trust is basically the owner.
Right.
Well, the reason why I questioned that is then it can go from family member to family member to family member because it's within a trust, and the trust can have a half a dozen or more family members. That's why I asked that question. So to go from being a family of a husband and wife to the trust, and then the trust could cover any.
if
And
you would like to further restrict by adding a condition that it's just for this current owner, then you're free to do that.
Would you want,
That would require amending the motion.
Yes.
I could amend the motion to add the condition that the special exception is approved for the current owner only. And if it should transfer to a trust, or, well, if he transfers completely to different ownership, a new special exception application will be required. And if he transfers it to a trust,
It's out of his name. So
Well,
Okay.
if it leaves their current owner's name, then they would need to come back.
so in any form, if it leaves the current owner's name in any
Right.
form,
Yep.
even a trust? Okay,
Okay, I would second that amendment. So
okay.
Okay, so we have an amended motion, and it's a second. Any other discussion of the motion?
None for me.
Roll it.
All set.
Okay. Now we're gonna have to do a voice vote on this. And Gail, since you're first on my pictures here, Gail, how do you vote?
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Steve? Yes. The motion passes. Okay. We'll go ahead and we're done with this. The applicant can get a hold of the planning department and finish what she needs to do, okay? And we're done with the application.
Mhm.
All right, next on the agenda is not.
Yeah, that's
We're
it.
done.
We're done.
Is
Was
there
there
any
another
other
business?
business before the board tonight?
Yeah, okay, yes, I do.
Okay,
I just want to say publicly that in light of the council's request that we can reconsider the first application, I just want to put it out there. I mean, are the other board members comfortable with proceeding with these requests in the future?
I am. I am. If the council wants to put their 2 cents in on what we've decided, then let them go ahead and do it. They want to request a rehearing, fine. And we can just treat them the same as we would treat any applicant. I'm fine with our hearing it because I think that we go in depth on every application and we examine the criteria specifically to that application. And I'm not uncomfortable defending that.
no, I'm not either.
No,
And
neither
it's
am I. I
also-
just wanted to see, I just wanted it all to be on the record as to what the feeling of the board is as we go further with this process and as more and more applications come forward.
Well,
I think we should keep hearing
I
them.
think we need to see what the city presents to us. The request for a rehearing will be heard just like any other applicant requesting a rehearing. There's no public input on it, and there's what they provide us in documentation is what we'll review, and then we'll review it and discuss it like we always do, just amongst the board, and see what comes of it, okay? And it's all gonna probably be filed in the form of a legal document, you know, so it's gonna be a lot for us to read. And, you know, we'll take it from there, as we always have in the past. I have great confidence that we have that ability, since we've done it quite a few times.
Okay.
Any
I
other
pretty much feel the
thoughts
same
or-
way. I just wanted to sound out the rest of the board members as to
Yeah.
whether or not. Now, I guess the specific question is to the best of your knowledge, and this would be to Dean. Dean, are there any other applicants that we're going to need to consider before the city files its petition for a rehearing? To the best of your knowledge?
May I unmute you, Karen?
Okay, Gail, just so to make you aware, as I can recall right off the top of my head, we don't have any other applications for the month of May for short-term lodging. You have several applications, but they're not for short-term lodging, if I remember correctly. The application for rehearing has been filed and will be on the May agenda.
Okay. All right, great. I just, again, I just, my purpose in bringing this up now is I just don't want to wade further into the quicksand if there is quicksand to be waded into. I'm not sure yet. I haven't read the city's motion for our petition for a rehearing. I just didn't want any, I just wanted to sound the board out as how we feel about future applicants, because I know there's quite a bit of time that we need when an application is submitted as to the time when we hear it.
Well, as I've always
Make
said,
sure that we were all on the, not all on, but the majority of us were on the record and on the same page as to going forward with these applications.
the greatest thing that we all have going for us, in my opinion, is the fact that each property has to stand on its own merits. So even as we decide on one application to the next, one, if we approve one, doesn't automatically approve another one, because the circumstances could be slightly different than what the one we previously approved. Okay, and as these are new ordinances and stuff, you know, if we get some greater insights into interpretations and stuff like that, well, so be it. It's a good educational opportunity.
Okay, all right. I'm good with
Keep
that.
in, I say, just to keep in mind, the deadline for application is this Friday. We don't currently have any, and some of that may also have to do with the current governor's order that short-term lodging is not considered essential unless there's specific circumstances. So that may have also kind of, people are waiting to see what's going to happen.
Yep, no, I understand that. Okay, that's it for me, Mr. Chair.
I have one.
I'm sorry?
She said that was it.
Okay.
I think Roland was looking to say something.
Yes, Roland.
This is a copy of the ordinance that we received, ordinance number 2019-235. Is this the law of the land now, or is this still pending before the council?
As far as I know, it's the law of the land.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
It's been approved.
been approved, yeah.
it's been approved.
Okay, is there anything else before the board?
No, sir.
I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second,
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Gail, second by Lori, and Roland, do you agree to close the meeting?
Roland actually made the motion and Gail
Motion,
seconded.
yeah, Roland made the
I
motion.
didn't hear all.
Gail and I kind of seconded at the same
Hey,
time.
Gail, do you agree to close the meeting?
yes, sir.
Okay, I do too, so it passes 4-0. Everybody have a safe month and be careful, okay?
And I will be in contact with Mr. Schweier.